that if I stutter, I just start again. So
This is the KoperCrabb podcast.
I'm Chaney Crabb.
Navene Koperweis here. We got a special guest.
We got our friend Matt McGachy from Cryptopsy and Vox&Hops podcast.
Okay, so we did a special 2-part episode.
Yes.
If you want to hear the first part, we already did over on Matt's podcast, Vox&Hops. The link's in the description. You can go check that out first and then shoot back over here if you didn't already hear it.
That's right.
So, welcome back, Matt.
So, Matt, in honor of your podcast, what beer did you just go grab?
I just went to go pick up my good friends from Overhop, Canada. This is called Hop Man, and it's a really badass can, as you can see.
Yes.
You got the Pac-Man going around eating the hops, and the bad guys are actually corn because of the corn syrup that all the shitty beers use.
Yeah, right.
This is from Overhop, Canada. Huge shout out to Patty and Tatiana for hooking me up with some brews for my my Cheers.
Nice.
Hell yeah. That can meets my criteria for beer picking out, which is that it looks cool.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's a New England IPA, a New England double IPA.
Ooh,
Okay, nice,
that has to be a dick
nice.
ripper,
Yeah,
right?
that's
How
really
much? Yeah.
It is a dick ripper.
Yeah.
I think it's an 8.5%.
Ooh.
So
Holy
he
shit.
had the low percentage on his podcast,
Yeah.
and
No,
now he's like letting it all loose.
he's getting a little wild on ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, the echo.
It's Echo Session Ales. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
so how do you did they send you that beer?
They live in Montreal. They live close by. They came and left it on my stoop and rang my door, and then
Okay.
went 6 feet away, and we
Good.
waved, and I gave them some. I have some beers from Henderson Brewing Company because for Devastation on the Nation 2020, I was the official sponsor, and I had an after party at the Henderson Brewing Company in Toronto, but sadly it was canceled due to COVID-19. So I got a bunch of those cans, and I gave them some of those cans in return. It's like a community. It's like a new age tape trading, except craft beer.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. That might be a good idea for a label. Let's put a little cassette tape on there.
Oh. Oh, I like the sound of that pour.
All right.
So, Matt, what have
So
you...
cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers,
again.
man.
Cheers.
I'm still working
Yeah,
on
I'm
this.
still nursing my first
heretic
one because we started
fruity.
with the high percentages. At least I did.
And we haven't really been drinking much, so I'm kind of a
Yeah.
lightweight at this point.
And I make you guys talk so much. It's always like that on Vox&Hops. I always finish my beers before the guests.
Yeah.
We
okay.
just talk a lot.
So we
lots
were talking on your podcast. We kind of ended it with how the KoperCrabb got started. So how did you get into it? Because I know you were doing it. You've been doing it for a lot longer than us. At this
I know
point.
you're on episode. Was it 97?
I think it was 100 and something.
Oh,
right?
100.
I'm today I released 128.
Dang.
Jesus, man.
And how
Yeah.
many do you release per week? You do a lot.
I started with one. Oh no, it always varies because it depends how much content I have. But to go backwards, Vox&Hops really started because I stayed home for a year taking care of my then 18-month-old child. And
We met him earlier a little bit.
Yeah, no, that was my son. My daughter's older now, but I stayed home with
okay.
my daughter.
Got it.
And we don't watch TV with my kids even to this day. We listen to music, we read books.
Oh,
And
man.
here in Canada, the winter months would get long because you can't go out in the afternoon as much because it gets dark so early. So I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to The Jasta Show, The X-Man with Doc Coyle. I started listening to Off Camera with Sam Jones, to name a few. Mark Maron's What the Fuck, I think it's called.
Yep, that is.
And I just got into this world. I'm very obsessive with whatever I do. I went out for my wife's birthday, and we just started talking, and she's the producer of the podcast. We just started talking about this idea. I think I could do this. But what is it now? So obviously, I love craft beer. I have a bunch of very cool friends in the metal scene that I like to ask questions to, and I wanted to bring the Quebec beer scene up, and all of my friends' bands up into a brighter light. And what better way to do that than by starting a podcast? So that's how Vox&Hops was born. That night, I came up with the name.
Cool.
And it was that was in April, and I launched my first episode at the end of October of 2018.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Congratulations, man.
Keeping at it.
Yeah.
That's the important part, huh?
Well, we were talking in your podcast about how it'll be interesting to see how many people after the quarantine continue on with their podcast. And honestly, when we started ours, I don't know if it was like this with you, but we didn't think that it would go past just 10 episodes because it's hard to stay on with something. Have you found that it's challenging to stay up to date with your podcast, like going on tour and throughout all of the things that life brings about?
It's always, I'm at this point so hungry for content. When I launched originally, I had 10 episodes already recorded.
Oh wow, holy shit.
I did some like research online and they said that was the best way to, so I did that. I'm not sure it's necessary, so I dropped, I think it was like 4 episodes of the first week, and then 4, and then 2 and 2 or something.
That's
is how I broke it down. And then I started just doing 1 a week, and then it depends how much content I have. But if ever I'm going on tour, I'll make sure that I have enough content so that while I'm on tour, I don't have to do any editing or have to absolutely do editing, because I've done that on tour and it's rough and the Wi-Fi is not always super amazing to do your uploading and to, well, 30 other people are on the Wi-Fi, as we well know. That's how it is.
I get it. Yeah, I get it.
And but while I'm on tour, I do a bunch of interviews.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Yeah. So are you basically every day doing an interview, or every couple of days, or just seeing who on the tour package wants to be interviewed, or are you getting people who come to shows as well?
All of the above.
Okay, cool.
When I did a Hell Over North America with Aborted, Benighted, and Hideous Divinity, I did 14 interviews over the 6 to 5 week course there, but it was either people coming out to the shows or people on the package or suggesting people to me. Now things are all different. When here at home in Montreal, whenever tour packages come through, a huge shout out to Le Saint-Boc Brasserie Artisanale for hooking me up with some brews whenever I bring guests there. It's one of Montreal's best tap houses on Saint-Denis, right near Fun Electric, right near the Metropolis, now called M-Telus, and a bunch of other Club Soda. So whenever there's shows in Montreal, I always walk people to Saint-Boc, and I do, anywhere from 2 to 4 interviews a day.
Wow.
You'll do them at the brewery. You'll do them.
Yes,
that's cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's super.
And now with COVID, I had so much planned, so many things, as a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I was super, super, super dark and disappointed for the first week, let's say, and then I started getting my hustle train back on, as I like to call it, getting hungry again for content, and I started exploring Zoom as an option and chatting with a bunch of people. So now honestly, I do anywhere from 4 to 7 interviews a week.
Wow.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, we need to step up our game, huh, Chaney?
I know. Matt's on some other shit.
Everyone is home.
Yeah.
It's very true. And what I have found is that ever since we opened up this Zoom thing, because before we had a very strict rule, we would only do in-person interviews. Because it is a little bit easier to chat with someone when they're across the table from you and you're sharing drinks or a joint or whatever it may be. But now with this whole Zoom world, we can have an interview every single day. And so now we're releasing 2 episodes a week just because of the nature of what's going on. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think people want the content. That's why I push myself to do at least 3 a week. I started by doing 3 releases on Fridays, and my Thursday before that Friday was such a disaster with the 2 kids at home. Trying to get the editing and the intros and everything all done, and the artwork, and get it up on YouTube, and all of the fun. Anyways, that Thursday was fun. So I decided to just do Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and it's made my life a little bit easier.
That's awesome.
But I want to feed the hungry monsters at home that need some content, because there's some interesting things that all of our friends have to say, and it's much more interesting than the Tiger King.
I think so.
I don't know. Tiger King's pretty fucking cool. Interesting. So, no, I get it. So that's respect for you guys raising your kids without TV. I love that. What's the story behind that?
Yeah.
I'm an early childhood educator. I know that it's just detrimental.
Yeah.
And I have no disrespect for anyone that uses TV or tablets as a tool, but there are many other ways that you can entertain your children
Yeah.
without just zombifying them in front of a screen. That's
Yeah.
not to say that I don't love TV. I love TV.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a house where TV was playing all the time, but
Right.
I see the benefits already with my two kids. I work in childcare, so I see kids that are just so delayed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do no attention span. All this stuff that we're
I know.
seeing it's about being a zombie, and it's
Well,
only going to get worse with screens everywhere.
I know, and I think about that as an adult, like just for my own person, we're sort of training ourselves to be less attentive, right? I mean, that's what you're doing. You're going
absolutely,
just going like, topic, and it's like, yeah. Lately, I've just been finding that I really want to just hone in on one topic, just to try to be absorbed with one thing and not have that complete ADD
the
thing
noise
going on.
There's a lot of noise.
Exactly. And I can't even imagine, like, I think about this a lot, and I say it out loud to Chaney, like, I'm just so glad I grew up without all the phone and stuff. I mean, of course, I had video games and the stuff of that day, but it was not what it is today, for sure.
Right.
So.
Just imagine growing up and going in high school with Facebook.
I mean, that would be horrible.
It would be horrible. And I see some of the things that these kids post on YouTube, and they don't realize it now, but you're just not going to want that shit on the internet when you're 40.
Yeah. I mean,
not going to like it.
Honestly, it's got to the point where I'm starting to get 10 years ago on Facebook type stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know. That stuff scares me. I'm like, I got my finger on that end button here.
So I've had that. I've had the delete your account. I've been there. I downloaded my profile. I had it on my computer, and then I just didn't have the balls to just get rid of it.
I mean, honestly, man, like I guess I feel like if I wasn't doing the band thing and I didn't have to be sort of like in the public or whatever, I would be pretty inclined to just nuke the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Same.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know, maybe that's an excuse, maybe that's a good excuse for me to just say, oh, if I didn't have a band, then I'd, because then maybe I'd have some other thing. Or if I was a photographer, well, if I didn't do photography, I guess there's always some reason to stay on there, but I don't know, man.
Now it's the podcast,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think there's we've yet to find out how it impacts your brain
psyche.
And even deeper than that, like your psyche.
Yeah. On a long-term basis.
We don't really know, and
I see it
especially
now
for children.
With social isolation, my kids we're doing a lot of Zooms with our families or FaceTimes, much more, and I see the effect right afterwards. They're always more. What's the right word? Like just out of sorts, more like emotionally fragile.
Yeah.
Easier to have like a tantrum. There's something that happens with the brain, which is what I like about the podcast world, is that you can just disconnect and it's a pure auditory thing. And I can do many things at the same time. I can like write a paper and listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
And understand both. I'm just like that. But I love the podcast medium much more than anything visual.
Me too, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's probably for both me and Chaney, like just the amount of stuff of info that I've been able to, helpful information for my life that I've been able to gain by listening to other people talk at length has been really great. And I feel like the podcast thing is probably the best thing to come out of the internet medium.
Well, for me, I've always been an auditory learner.
Exactly.
It's always been easier for me to learn this way. So listening to podcasts, and I'm kind of like you, Matt, like I can focus on two things at the same time. And the podcasting thing has been very enlightening for me as well.
I agree.
Who has been your favorite guest so far and why?
Favorite guest on our podcast?
I've enjoyed
your favorite episode.
Our favorite episode. I'm not sure. I've enjoyed every guest that we've had on because it's like meeting people. You can't choose a favorite friend because all of your friends bring a different thing to the table. And it's been so cool though to be able to reach out to people who we may kind of know or not know at all. And it's just like a streamlined process to learn a lot about a person. For instance, we've never had a conversation before this podcast, but we'll all walk away from this knowing a lot about each other because we've been talking for 2 hours.
And the next time we see each other, we're going to be right back there.
We're BFFs now because we've been on both podcasts. Totally. But so I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that Cryptopsy has been writing through Zoom. First of all, why, how did that happen? And second of all, how has that been as a process for you guys?
When Trump did the travel ban and cut the flights from other countries, we were actually in a cottage in the woods writing the new Cryptopsy record all together, with Ollie being in cattle decapitation and Flo being in Ultimass. It has been very hard for us to find a small window when everyone is actually in Montreal.
Right.
So we had I think it was a 5 or 6 day window at that time. So we booked a cabin, we went up there, started writing, and we still had internet and everything. And so we saw everything just going down, degrading until boom, Trump announces that, and then it just went so fast, as everyone knows. So we stayed the rest of our time. We wrote a bunch of riffs. It was just Chris writing the guitar riffs, and then we went home. We took 2-3 weeks, and I started doing interviews via Zoom. So I showed Chris that he could start using Zoom for his studio, because he has a studio here in Montreal called The Grid, which everyone should do. And you should all work with Chris at The Grid. He's amazing.
Yeah, we checked that out today. We're checking out his website.
Yeah, we're creeping on Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be. He wants me to tell everyone that I talk to. He'll do a mix for you. So.
I know. I know of a few things he's done. Hasn't he worked on most of the Beyond Creation albums?
He's done them all.
Yeah. So we just toured with Beyond Creation. All of their stuff sounds great. The new Shadow of Intent, Melancholy, he did as well.
He mixed it.
Yeah. Does he work on Cryptopsy stuff or?
He does. He's done everyone since The Unspoken King. Yeah.
Awesome.
The album that shall not be named. But
well, that was.
And so anyway, so we started with Zoom, and he found a way. It's a plug-in. I don't know the name. I'm not the tech guy of the band, where he can, in his studio, send us exactly what he is doing in Pro Tools. So it's very cool. It's a plug-in.
Oh, cool.
And so you guys are listening at that point? Yeah, okay.
Exactly, and just constructing a song that will eventually become something for a full-length album, which is not going to come out this year, because I don't think a lot of albums are going to come out this year, sadly.
All right.
But probably in 2021 or early 2022, which is crazy to say at this point.
So do you write the instrumentation in Cryptopsy as well? Are you a part of that process, or are you just doing the vocals, lyrics?
I am there right now for moral support, and to give a few ideas of lengths of stuff, so that I could figure out where I would like to drop some vocals. But I just write all the lyrics and my patterns and stuff, and show up at studio with Chris, and then we hash it out together.
That's awesome. So, what was the process like for you in joining Cryptopsy?
Yeah, I got to hear about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was very fluid. It was a funny thing. Chris was a producer back then too. In 2006, I want to say, my band 3 Mile Scream, which was more of a metalcore band, went to record our second album with him. And as he still does to today, he likes to show off his mixes to us of his new projects. So he was driving with Cryptopsy to go play a show in Toronto, and he was showing off the 3 Mile Scream mix to the band. And Flo was in this time where he wanted to have clean vocals in the band. He's such a fan of Faith No More and Deftones. He loves Deftones. And it all stemmed from there. He's like, who's this guy? Oh, he can sing. Oh, he's good. He can scream, blah, 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 blah. And then I got a phone call, and I couldn't believe it when I got the phone call. And I actually said no. I said, I'm not going to do it. I wanted to stick true to 3 Mile Scream and ride that out. Because it was my baby.
Yep.
Been there since the beginning. And finally, my partner, one of the main dudes in the band, once we started touring a lot, huge shout out to Mike Marino, I love you, brother. We're still friends to this day, like brothers. He decided that he didn't want to be in the band. He didn't want to tour in the conditions that the rest of us wanted to tour in. So he dropped out of the band. And as soon as he dropped out of the band, he was the leader, the guy with the plan. I called back Flo and said, have you found someone?
Yeah.
All right.
So from there, I went to do like an audition process where I had to go and record with Chris Donaldson a version of a song, which is actually the track that's on The Unspoken King called The Plagued, that a lot of people don't like. That is my tryout track. That is, we didn't retrack it. That's it.
Wow.
Okay.
And another dude did the same thing. The people wouldn't have liked him either. So,
So
Alright.
were you a big Cryptopsy fan before you joined the band?
I was not. No, I
Okay.
was more of a metalcore, new metal child that evolved into death metal as I was in Cryptopsy.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. That's crazy.
I played with Cryptopsy in Three Mile Scream, and I remember enjoying watching the entity that is Lord Worm on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the ferociousness of it. I used to smoke a lot of weed, and when I would smoke weed when I was a teenager, I would hear this music in my head. I remember being in my parents' kitchen and like opening the fridge to like get some food and stuff, and I remember hearing something that I'd never heard before, and it was basically death metal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was just in my mind. I didn't know what it was yet.
All right.
And the first time I heard death metal or Cryptopsy specifically, huge shout out to Luke Orr. We were riding home on a train because I lived in Two Mountains, which is north of Montreal, and you take a train home.
Okay.
So I was on the train with Luke, and Luke showed me, here, listen to this, which he always did. And it was None So Live, Phobophile with Martin Lacroix on vocals. And I was like, what is this shit? I don't understand a word this guy's saying. What is happening here? I can never do that. Blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took time to evolve.
Okay.
I finally think that I'm doing somewhat of a good job,
Yeah.
but I haven't streamed since July. So who knows what the hell's going to go on now?
Right.
Yeah, we
right.
were listening to Tome 1 and 2 today. They're sick. You sound really good.
Yeah, I would have
Thank
not
you.
guessed that you weren't like an old school death metal fan.
Me
to be honest
either.
with you.
Me
That's
either.
Thank you.
surprising.
Though it's pure. It's work. It's work. Like the podcast. Whenever I want to do something, I try to give everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I understand what the fans need now and what Cryptopsy needs, and there won't be clean vocals anytime soon on the Cryptopsy record ever again.
Is that why the album is the unspoken album? Why you won't talk about it?
I'll talk about it, but
Yeah.
I've just spoken about it a lot.
Well, yeah,
so.
true.
Yeah.
So because it was Cryptopsy, because I think that for death metal fans, like None So Vile, if you're talking about the top 20 death metal albums of all time, None So is in that fucking top 20.
That thing
No
fucking
question.
Rocked my world.
Yeah.
When I was like 16, dude. I mean, it still does, but
Yeah.
we used to jam that thing hard.
Right. So for you, did you feel any pressure on your first record with the band? Like, I need to kind of appease these people? Or when you were singing, were you worried about how people would take it?
There was times that the band was so fragmented back then. There was no vision. There was no clear picture of what the album was supposed to be. So I was given just pure like moral support from Flo, saying that this is going to be great. People are going to love this. And the rest of the guys were not necessarily on board. It was like there was 3 cooks in the kitchen. One was cooking Mexican, the other one was cooking Chinese, and the other one was making Italian. It didn't make sense.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah.
They were using one pot, so it
Yeah.
really wasn't making sense. The only person that really knew what Cryptopsy needed back then, and I'm sorry to the rest of the people involved, was Chris Donaldson. He was recording me, and he was going like this. It's good. So yes, did I feel pressure? Yes. Yeah, of course, if I thought that this was like my big break, my big chance to prove myself to the world. And I remember to this day, there was no smartphones back then. I remember going on to some chat room somewhere, probably SMN News or something,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
with some chat room back then full of wonderful trolls. And a leak came out of the Unspoken King. And I
Okay.
remember I was about to go work with a bunch of kids at a daycare. And I started reading this, like how much they hated it and how bad it was. And I was devastated. Yeah. And then I had to go on tour.
Damn.
Like a week later, we toured Europe with my first real tour in Europe. My first real tour was in Europe with Decrepit Birth.
Oh, okay.
And
Was Chase there?
Chase Frazier.
he was, but later. Huge shout out to him. I love that guy.
Yeah, Chase is he was going to be playing guitar for us on these 2 tours that we had to cancel.
Really,
Yeah,
I love Chase.
Yeah, Chase is the best.
We're like super
Love you,
old,
Chase.
super old bros. Me and Chase. He lives here in town, like in Santa Cruz.
Really?
So,
Yeah, we tell him I say hi.
Oh, well,
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Will
But
do.
that's crazy. So your
Chase,
first.
who else done that tour that I haven't? Decrepit Birth and God damn it, they're from Kansas City. They just released something.
Unmerciful.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Homie James, he was in
Yeah.
he was in Origin for a minute on drums.
Yeah.
I know, but
he's
he's
a
not
funny
in the
dude.
band anymore.
Oh, he's not in Unmerciful anymore. Oh, sorry, James.
He was very funny.
Was he on
Very
the
funny.
tour in Europe?
He was James King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really funny.
Yeah, that dude's awesome. Yeah,
I haven't seen him in years. I haven't seen him since that tour.
Yeah, he was playing drums in Origin when my old band, we went on tour with Origin.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then right after that tour, I think I was home for a day and a half, and then we went and did Summer Slaughter,
Okay.
Holy shit.
And what year was that?
2008. So it was Cataclysm, Black Dahlia. This crazy lineup.
yeah.
Cryptopsy, Psychroptic, Whitechapel, Despised Icon.
Yeah.
You're getting one band. It was Born of Osiris. Yeah,
Oh wow.
I wonder if
the
I
Faceless.
went.
The Faceless too. Yeah,
I wonder
Of
if I
course.
went to
Well, the
that one.
Faceless is on just obligatory Summer Slaughter band.
I have to.
Yeah. Was that at the Fillmore in San
Yeah.
Francisco?
Yeah,
I
must
was
have
at
been,
that show. I was at that show. I was
yes,
there,
that's
bro.
one of my yes. Funny story about that.
Yeah. I watched you guys.
so-
I watched you guys that night. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Eric. I have to tell the story. We went probably a week before that or 5 days before that. We were in somewhere in California. We went to a beach, and being from Canada, we forgot to put sunscreen on, and my bassist got the worst sunburn.
Yeah.
And for 2 shows, like he was like blistered and just like ruined. So we started putting like a towel, like a moist towel, and then his strap playing. And then that night at the Fillmore, he was like the first day, he was like, "Oh, I feel good. I think I can do it." And then he just like almost passed out and played the rest of the show on a stool.
Damn.
I remember looking over and going, "What the fuck are you doing on a stool? This is so not death metal."
Yeah. That definitely happens to Canadians because they don't. You don't go to the
It's
beach
too
very
late
often, right?
for sunscreen now. No.
So are you originally from the place that's a few miles north of Montreal?
Yes.
So-
2
so-
mountains. Huge shadow. Now it's called Der Montagne. There's less English people there.
Wow. So are you a French speaker?
I speak French. I went to French elementary school,
Oh wow.
but I am English from birth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, your English is less. It sounds less like you speak English as a second language than a lot of my other friends who are from the Montreal area. Looking at you beyond creation, those guys can't. Those guys can't speak English.
Yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah, I love those guys so much. Hugo was going to play bass with us on this tour that we were doing.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we were talking earlier about how expensive it is for Canadians to tour in America, years ago when our bassist Evan decided that he was going to stay home with his daughter, we were going to get Hugo to play for us, but he didn't have an up-to-date visa, and it was going to cost like $1,500 or $2,000 to expedite his visa. So
Yeah,
it just
ridiculous.
wasn't plausible for us. But
Couldn't do it.
Now, session bassists and session players are always best from the country where the tour is happening,
yeah, and
or the continent.
yeah, true.
Yeah, totally. So are all of you guys, you have one member from the U.S. or everybody's from Montreal?
No, we're all from here. We got Ollie, who's in Cattle Decapitation as well.
Mhm.
He's from here. Chris Donaldson's from here, and Flo popped around a lot early in his life, and now he's totally here in Montreal, or just out of Montreal.
Oh, that's cool. So do you guys do the old school band practice thing where you get together in real life?
No.
No.
We have a jam room, but we never go there.
Yeah. I could see that happening.
Right.
We have a jam room like in the house now, so we're able to, and we still don't really practice that much.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
like, to be honest with you, it's if it's in a distant place, a couple miles away, 10, 15 minutes away, not gonna happen. You know what I mean? No, not doing it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, but you're releasing a bunch of cool covers and vocal performances, so you guys are still using your instruments. Which
We
is
are,
good.
yeah, we definitely are. I always feel like we could do more. You know what I mean? But we're gonna do a playthrough for the new song that we just released, and then
Yes, that's right.
we released.
Remember, you are dust.
Yeah, there it is.
There we
We
go.
released a new song. Just kind of me and Chaney made it to kind of signify the new
The
band
lineup
or whatever.
changes.
And then we got to do a playthrough for it. We got some. Chaney had a really cool idea for a playthrough, so we're gonna do that.
Do you guys do a lot of that stuff? Cryptopsy?
We do when we release something. That's about it. I would say we're a lazy band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my goal. To be just lazy.
Super
band.
lazy.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I think in the modern era, with the way that I'm approaching the podcast, trying to constantly give to the fans and stuff, I think not being lazy would be better. That's why we've been independent forever, right?
Oh, really?
Since 2012, we've been independent.
Okay.
Which is about to change, but I can't talk about that just yet. But there was talks of doing a Patreon page, and I was like, no, we're way too fucking lazy. I know us. We could never give enough stuff to people to make it worthwhile, to make people feel that they're giving them their money and that they're getting justified.
Yeah.
Right.
So I never pushed that on the band because I knew that we would just be the worst. I don't know what the name of there's patrons and then there's the people that the patrons pay.
Right.
Totally.
That's always been my worry with making a Patreon as well, is that I want to have the option to not do anything. And I feel like if you commit yourself to something like that, you never have the option to not do anything. You always have to put something up for the fans to take in, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be on the hook for anything. I mean, I think Chaney said earlier, like, I'm pretty shocked that we kept the podcast going this long. Like we've made a point to be like, we're doing it every week, no matter what. So, I mean, we should be doing something like that for the band where it's like something comes out every week, but I don't know. It's just sort of hard to.
It's hard. And you can't push creativity. The podcast is you're putting someone else's creativity in the spotlight. It's different.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And Chaney and I, we don't always have a guest. Like we've actually had very few guests in comparison to most of the time it's just her and I just shooting the shit, talking about stuff. And yeah, it's not hard to just sit down and have a beer and talk into a microphone for an hour.
About things that we would talk about whether or not a microphone was in front of us.
So
exactly.
I mean, that's a kind of a whole different story. But I guess when you're like dealing with an older, band like you guys, legacy band, if you will, I guess I always wonder how you guys feel about all the playthroughs and all this stuff that's going on, is it sort of like a priority for you guys, or you kind of just like do it when you do it type thing?
I know Flo fucking hates them.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that about him because
he doesn't, he's very jaded with everything with the music industry. Although he's getting a little bit more refreshed.
Yeah.
In these new days.
Well, yeah.
The rest of us are more into it. Chris is tired of seeing people doing playthroughs in his studio. So there's no way that he ever wants to do a Cryptopsy playthrough at the Grid. He wants it to be special.
Yeah.
Because everyone does them at the Grid. So.
I think that it's cool to maybe think of a new way to go about doing a playthrough. Like the playthrough that Navene and I are going to put up, I won't go too far into detail about it, but it is something that I've never seen anyone do before because, now we're in a position where Navene is playing all of the instruments for our band. So we have to figure out how to incorporate that into a playthrough. So I don't know, maybe that's the answer, is to bring a little more creativity to it and not just have it be straightforward. I don't know, because I'll see things like that posted and then people will complain that they couldn't see the fretboard up close perfectly the entire thing. So I kind of go back and forth with what people enjoy about playthroughs. I
mean, I think if you're trying to appease people on the internet, you're going to have a bad time.
It's a failing.
That's a definite
rule number one.
Yeah, that's a
so
definite
true.
fail.
Don't read the comments.
I know. And what you said earlier about reading the comments, do you still read comments on your videos or have you?
I still read comments on the video.
Me
What's
too,
funny
man.
is like
but I shouldn't.
I shouldn't either, because I'll see a million good comments and then one bad comment can derail my entire day.
It's the only one that we'll remember.
It's the only one that I'll remember, and it hits deep. So I try to not read them, but it's just hard for me to stay away from it for some reason.
Well, the worst is if like if I post a video and people come to my page to watch it, if they say something negative or whatever, it's usually they know I'm gonna probably read it, so it's worded in a acceptable way, I guess. The worst is when some other entity posts your video. Like,
Oh, that's the worst.
So drum companies that I'm endorsed by will post one, and nobody on there knows me, so it's just like, fuck this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Like even before the podcast, I was on my phone for a second, and I was like, oh, I got tagged in a post, and like someone posted one of that Origin cover, they reposted it, and I was like, started reading the comments, and I was like, I gotta turn this off. Like, this is
Step away.
this is going down a bad, like, cause that's what I'll do. Like, as soon as the comments get weird, I'm just like, I'm turning this off. This has nothing to do with me. It's just, it's out there. I don't care. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's honestly the best way to do it, to be real with you.
And you don't engage in rule number 2, which is respond.
No,
never.
No, do
I
not
will
respond.
never respond. That's a no-no. I don't like seeing my friends respond to that stuff either.
And then it just gets like this,
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
It never makes it better.
It never does.
It never
and
does.
and I really, even though the person who posts a bad comment can be seen as an asshole or something like that, I don't really like sicking people after them. I don't think that it makes for any good. It just recreates negativity, and I'd rather create positivity.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're setting this thing up to be not good. That's what I think. With all this the social media and putting these videos and all these comments and these little comment wars and everyone's all triggered, and it's just, man, I just can't take it anymore. I just can't take it anymore, man.
So Matt,
I have never done a vocal playthrough though. You've done a few of those, which is cool.
I have done those. It's done its thing. There's this Veil of Maya cover that I did years ago to try out for the band, and people will still talk to me about it. So I think it's served its purpose, but
Definitely.
You never know. But I wanted to talk to you about being an independent band. So did you enjoy that experience? Because as a band who has recently become independent,
Oh, cool.
the song that we just released was the first thing we've released independently since our first EP. And we're kind of like we're going through the motions of it. Every other day we're kind of like, when we write an album, should we get back on a label? Or so how do you feel about the whole thing?
It's hard. It's a lot of work is the issue.
Mm-hmm.
A label, as a lot of things have changed since the 90s when record labels were very, very important and had all the power. Nowadays with the internet, you can communicate with your fans a little bit better. So when we left Century Media, it was because Flow was just fed up of the deal that they had. We gave them The Unspoken King, and then we gave them a compilation album, which was called The Best of Us Bleed. We gave a few new tracks for that, and then that was the end of that contract. And we decided to let's just try to be independent. My wife, who's the producer of Vox&Hops, and I did a bunch of research on how we can be independent. We discovered Bandcamp, back in 2011 before it became what it is.
Wow.
And we did well on the first self-titled Cryptopsy release. But the issue with it is really the marketing, the press. A lot of people don't know that Cryptopsy has released anything since that self-titled.
Wow.
They don't know that we released two EPs. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off of Spotify. Sometimes there's a whole bunch of things. You have to follow up on everything all the time.
Yeah.
And we have had many, many late night. It has ruined so many parties on tour when we start talking about this, and we look at each other, a few of the members, I'm like, time to go to bed.
Yeah.
Because this is not going to end well.
Yeah.
Right.
So now we've come to a point where we're not going to be independent anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally am excited about it because it will alleviate a bunch of work that I had to do.
Yeah, I was gonna ask who would be, because in our band, being independent, I'm the person who's getting us on Spotify playlists. I'm the person who's acting as, although we do have PR, there are bases that you have to cover. and things like that. Like we have PR management, booking agent, but as far as getting everything on Spotify, having it on Bandcamp, all of that type of stuff I'm handling. So I was wondering so that would fall on you.
The Bandcamp version, yes. The Spotify, iTunes went through Flow through some Red Music, I think it's called, out of Texas. I could be wrong, but they were great, and they're still doing a great job right now.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool.
But it's hard. It's hard. It was hard to really find, with a minimal budget, making music videos that because we always work with he just changed the name of his production company. Anyways, FTB Visuals. My brother Chris Kells from The Agonist is amazing at making music videos up here in Montreal, and I always felt bad like pitching him the budget that we had, but it's just the budget that we had because it's coming out of our pockets.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, those are the realities of it, and I think there's kind of pros and cons, I guess, but yeah,
as there are to being signed to a label. Sorry to interrupt you, but they both come with, because at the same time with a label, you're getting an advance that could be very high, and you may have to recoup it. So
you'll have to recoup it. So it's still going to be more than I made independently on the last releases.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's sort of.
But then you should speak to Chris Wiseman from Shadow of Intent.
Yes.
Who they're running a machine where they're killing it being independent. They got offers from every major metal label out there, and they've just still decided that it's better to stay independent. So
yeah, if I ever talk about this with anyone, Shadow of Intent is one of the bands that I bring up because I haven't met any of those guys, but I've been watching from afar, and I'm a fan of the last record that they put out, and they've just been doing an incredible job being an independent band. And Chris must be a very, very intelligent dude and know what he's doing because
absolutely, yeah. And they just landed Nick Storch. I hope I'm saying that right.
Oh yeah.
As a booking agent, and they have they had crazy shit coming up.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm sure we'll continue once we're allowed to have shows again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's always hard to point to these outliers like that, because there's these bands that sort of just like blow up or whatever, and it's like. It's not one thing. It's not like, oh, they're independent, so like that. Look what they did. We can do the same thing. But you're not that band, and you're not going to have necessarily the same results, even if you do their same,
their model
or whatever. It's like that. That's just part, I think, of what I've learned in being in the music, scene for so long. That like different bands have different trajectories. And
there's no formula. There's no magic recipe.
Yeah,
there is none. And I feel like when a band like Shadow of Intent, for instance, I'm sure that for the next year, we'll be hearing a lot of people who are trying to follow the Shadow of Intent model. Yeah. But the reality is that you just can't copy anything specifically and expect to have the same outcome.
Because at the end of the day, it's like they made some music that a lot of people think is really sick.
Yeah.
And that's really the what it boils down to. It's not. It's nothing more than that. I
remember when Chris recorded them, he was like, Matt, you got to listen to this. And he put it on the car. We were going to the beer store, as we do. And I was like, what is this? And then like the melodies and the symphonic aspects and the ridiculous drumming just caught my attention. And once it came out, I was like, yeah, you're right, Chris. This is a contender right here for like album of the year and stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't describe what about them is so amazing.
I don't know. I think that I like that they're reminiscent of Dimmu to me, and just a lot of stuff that I like. I don't know. It's it's one of those things their songs to me kind of feel like they've just always been songs, and that's always
that's
a good sign. I think I'm listening to bands
vibe for sure. But
it's a good band.
That's the one thing I think everybody will learn is that this thing is just fucking. There's no way to predict any of it.
No, you got to be yourself.
Yeah,
that's it. There we go. I think you've hit the nail on the head. You've got to be yourself.
Yeah, and if it's not the best flavor, like blowing up thing of the year or whatever, like so what? That's not why I do it personally.
Yeah.
No, and you got to look at those bands that got these albums that they mature so much better with age, and then people go back and they become these cult albums after no one even knows what they were doing.
Exactly.
When Lord Worm left Cryptopsy, he didn't know that None So Vile was popular.
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
You know, he came back and he was okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of examples like that. I mean, like Frederick Thorndahl, Soul Niger.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
so good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
One of the best albums ever, and it's still not the most, blown up thing. I mean, it never really did, and that's one of the most important albums for me ever.
Me too.
So I always just tried to make music that I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And that's all I ever wanted to do, and I think that's what I would instruct people to do for sure, instead of trying to figure out what this perfect formula is. It's not going to have that lasting power that you're talking about if you're doing that, even if you do find some little temporary success.
As anyone knows me, and anyone who's watching this knows me, I have to pee.
Okay.
Go pee, my friend.
Yeah, I went ahead and peed before the show.
Podcast happened. I know usually Navene is so bad about peeing during the show. You guys can always see him like excusing himself behind me, and I'm like,
I'm actually good. I actually don't have to pee, surprisingly.
I can say that I don't think I've ever peed during one of our podcasts.
Wow. Why is that?
I hold it.
You hold it?
No, I get lost in the conversation.
Do you have to pee right
And
now?
I have FOMO. No, I don't have to pee.
You're worried that someone's
but I
talking
do
about
have to take a hit.
You're worried that someone's talking about you?
Yeah, every time I leave a room. I'm just kidding.
I remember you and my mom were talking about that one day. Like, she was saying that when she was a kid, when they left, they'd be like, "Don't talk about me when I'm gone."
I did an interview with the dudes from Conjurer.
Oh, yes.
And,
Nice.
and right in the middle of the interview with Brady, I was like, I gotta pee. And he's like, okay. And we were outside, so I just went and did it in the wild. And I was editing the episode afterwards, and he was describing he's walking through the through the bushes, and it was great. It was
narrating. That guy's
okay.
a funny man,
Yeah.
funny English
Very funny.
bloke. Yeah.
Huge fan of it. So, an underrated band right there.
Yeah, they really are. We
Yeah.
did a tour with them last year. They're sick.
Did you? Fucking right. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
we did. Them,
With
Rivers,
Rivers.
and Wolf
Yeah.
King, who,
Yes.
if you listen to our podcast, we talk about Wolf King probably every other episode
Yeah.
because we fucking love that band. So.
Oh, cool. So that's a band I never went down the rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah, you definitely need to check out Wolf King. I was going to
I will.
ask you what you're listening to lately.
Oh, just been so much being home. Just so much. I really like that new Night Flight Orchestra.
Okay.
I really, really like it. It's the dudes from Soilwork and Arch Enemy.
Okay, I haven't heard
It's
it.
like
Yeah, I haven't
80s
either.
retro throwback, feel good montage music.
Oh, nice.
It makes my house really clean. Yeah.
Nice.
The new Igor, I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah. I've heard the singles, but I haven't jammed the full album yet. But everything that
It's
I've heard
great,
is,
yeah.
I bet.
And the grooves and the drops and the it's weird. It's like there's like distorted guitars, but he sort of like pulled back on the tone. It's sort of very interesting. Other things that I'm jamming. Can I do the? Let me pull up my phone.
Of
so my
course.
brain remembers.
That's what I always want to do, but we use the phone
The phones,
for
yes.
Yeah.
the video, so I'm like, I don't actually know. I can't remember what I was jamming.
Of course. Curian just dropped a record, which is dudes from Neuraxis,
Oh,
Mike
Okay.
DeSalvo from Cryptopsy, and
okay.
Ollie Pinard from Cryptopsy right now.
Oh, nice.
Everyone has to check that. This is probably one of the most disturbing things. I use like Apple Music, so I get like weekly playlists, and this band Meth Witch
I haven't heard of them.
just dropped something. It's very disturbing. My
Sick.
wife was like, "Turn it off. It sounds like someone's dying." And I listened to Cannibal Corpse, and I listened to everything. And this is like the one that she couldn't handle.
Does she listen to
So-
a lot of metal? Sorry to interrupt you, but
She is not metal. No, she's
Okay.
not metal whatsoever.
Okay.
But she understands. And
well, totally.
my boy in Benighted, of course, just dropped a new record,
Yes.
which is absolutely super amazing and great. And we just got news today that Julien Truchat, the vocalist, is recovering from COVID-19 because he was affected, because he was acting as a volunteer, because he works normally in the health industry, and he was helping people out there, and he contracted the virus. I believe I'm saying that right. And he's doing better as of today. His fever is finally broken. So huge shout out to Julien. We love you.
Yeah, shout out. That's crazy.
Wolfheart, just dropped something new. There's been lots of really, really fun music. Cabal, I don't know if you guys are on the I think they're Danish. Am I saying?
That's a band that I've heard of for years, but I've never taken the dive into their discography.
They're great. They're great. They got some good grooves and chugs. Surprising. I interviewed Dustin Davidson from August Burns Red, and I normally wouldn't even listen to August Burns Red, but this record is really good.
Yeah.
Guardians, it's got some hooks to it, and it brings me back to my metalcore years.
Oh, that's rad.
It's fun, yeah.
Is that a newer
Just to name
one?
a few.
Or
That's like in the past 2 weeks, yeah.
So when you were listening to metalcore, what was your go-to metalcore album choice?
Oh, of course, Killswitch Engage, The End of Heartache. What's the one before that?
The one that has Jesse Leach on it?
Exactly, yes. Yeah.
Alive or Just Breathing?
Yes,
yeah.
That was when I started screaming. That was one of the ones. Randy Bly.
Yeah, me
Another
too.
one, Ashes of the Wake. I think you posted it.
I did. Well,
As the Palaces Burn or Ashes of the Wake. I can't remember.
I posted As the Palaces Burn, but all of that early shit was. I mean, Randy is such a huge influence for me vocally. That was like I listened to so much of that when I was in high school.
He was the nicest dude. Funny story. Bloodshot Hai is a band from Toronto or Windsor, Ontario, actually, really. London, Ontario? Anyways. And they came to record with JF Dashne, and we were friends with them, 3 Mile Scream back in the day. And Randy had like taken them under his wing. So I hung out with Randy. This is before I was in Cryptopsy years ago. We went out to like a cabin in the woods and took like a pedal boat. Is that the right word in English?
Yeah. Definitely.
A pedal boat ride, me and Randy Bly. And I was like such an Uber fan at the time, but he was just the nicest, down-to-earth dude. And I've met him since then. And he remembers me, he remembers the experience. So huge shout out to Randy for just being, a real dude.
That's awesome.
That's always cool to hear.
I know, because I'm sort of scared of meeting my heroes. I don't know if you guys have this experience, but I don't want them to be assholes. And I'm scared of meeting them in case I have a lesser opinion of them when I leave the conversation. So that's really awesome to hear that Randy is such a nice guy.
I haven't met Mike Patton. Yeah. I haven't met Maynard yet. I'm worried.
Yes. Two of the greats right there, man. Maynard is...
he seems pretty cool. I saw him on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I've listened to some Joe Rogans with Maynard. So what did you think about Fear Inoculum?
It took me some time to like it.
Really?
It took me a lot of time to like it.
What?
But the other day, I had my whole iPod, whatever, Apple Music, like all the song discography, whatever you call it, on shuffle. And one of the tracks from Fear Inoculum came on. And in my mind, I was like, is this from 10,000 Days?
Yeah.
Or is it? So that means it's okay.
There we go. That was one of the first albums in years that I just put on, didn't do anything else, listened to front to back, smoked a bunch of weed while I did it, and it just really grabbed me from the first listen. But I can understand why it would take a while. There's a lot of expectation with an album like that.
I wish Maynard was angrier. That's my biggest problem with the album. And that was my initial problem, and it's still my problem, but it's still good.
So are you also a fan of Puscifer and A Perfect Circle?
Absolutely, yes.
What's your favorite?
I like A Perfect Circle better, but more the Mère d'Anneau and 13th Step, personally. Puscifer's got some cool stuff, particularly the early stuff. Mm-hmm. Once again, I'm missing an aggressive Maynard.
Yeah. I feel that.
Too much wine.
Yeah, I was going to say, he owns a winery, so he's kind of just chilling.
Still whining.
Not really mad about anything.
Funny story, Ollie from Cattle told me that they were playing in Auckland, New Zealand, and they finished the show, and the promoter comes backstage and goes, there's some special fans that want to meet you. And in walked Justin Chancellor, Danny Carey, and the guitarist is Adam Jones.
Yep.
And they hung out and took some pictures, and I won't go into the rest of the night, but that's private. But
damn, that's sick.
That's
I would have freaked out.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember which one of them were at one of our shows, but the guys in Intronaut have toured with Tool before, and they're homies with them. And we did a tour with Intronaut, and I believe it was Justin Chancellor that came to the show.
Sash Denible's a good man.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that's always cool when someone whose band you look up to so much comes to your show. Is there anyone that you've been totally surprised with who's been into your band?
No.
No one.
Yeah, I know.
I remember I think the most nervous I've ever been in life. This is probably the most nervous ever. We were playing in Vancouver and we were touring with Cannibal Corpse. And I looked over and George was side stage.
Oh God.
I don't know how long he stayed there, but I gave it a little bit more that night.
Yeah, I bet, man. I would too. That's awesome. So, yeah.
Right on, man. Well, I think that might be a wrap on this week's episode. Double episode.
If you didn't hear the beginning of the podcast, go check out Matt's podcast, Vox&Hops, for the flip. He did an interview on us. So this is basically the part 2. That's part 1.
And dude, thanks so much for doing this with us, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. It's
pure pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Got to make the scene strong.
That's right. Yeah, man. That's what we're all about. So everyone out there, have a fantastic week. Enjoy your quarantine. Find something to put your heart into while this is all going down.
All right, Matt. Talk to you next time, brother.
Love y'all.